You're listening to From Stillness, an audiobook for a mind in need of quiet. You don't need another productivity hack. You don't need a pep talk about 4 a.m. wake-ups or how to squeeze more out of an already overstretched day. What you need, what your soul has likely been whispering to you for some time now, is rest. Real rest. Not the kind that's disguised as scrolling in bed. Not the kind that leaves you feeling guilty, but the kind of rest that returns you to yourself. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that rest is indulgent, a reward for the productive, a break only when we've earned it. So now, most of us don't rest. We hide. We check out. We perform exhaustion like it's a badge of honor. We collapse not because we're lazy, but because our nervous systems have been running on fumes. And yet, even when we try to stop, we don't know how. We sit still but scroll. We slow down but remain mentally scattered. We call that taking a break, but in truth it's a quiet panic, a rest shaped like avoidance. But rest, when it's real, isn't just the absence of doing. It's the return of presence. It's not about being passive, it's about being whole again, grounded, clear. Rested you is not a slower version of productive you. Rested you is sharper, braver, more alive. So before the next push, the next project, the next self-improvement sprint, pause. Not to stop everything, just to remember something. You were never built to run forever. Most people don't actually rest. They pause. They disconnect. They slow down but never really come back to themselves. Scrolling on your phone while a show plays in the background. Sitting on the sofa but keeping one eye on the to-do list in your head. Feeling guilty for not being productive, even in your so-called downtime. That's not rest. That's digital sedation. Emotional limbo. A body still, but a mind spinning. We've confused stillness with idleness. We've mistaken distraction for relief. And in the process, we've forgotten what true rest even feels like. True rest isn't just stopping. It's softening. It's letting the shoulders drop, the breath deepen, the thoughts untangle. It's not the absence of doing, it's the presence of peace. It's not just a break from the world, it's a return to yourself. Real rest feels different. It doesn't just recharge your body, it reclaims your attention, it restores your emotional baseline, it allows your nervous system to finally exhale. Because when you rest deeply, you're not being unproductive, you're rebuilding, quietly, patiently, from the inside out. And if you've forgotten what that feels like, it's okay, you're not alone. This world hasn't made it easy to rest, but you can relearn it. Gently. One quiet moment at a time. So tonight, when you reach for the screen out of habit, pause. And ask yourself, what if I didn't need more content right now? What if I just needed me? We've made burnout look normal. We laugh about it. Wear it like a badge. Turn it into memes and coffee slogans. Just tired. Running on empty. One more thing and then I'll rest. But the truth is, many of us are walking around deeply unwell, emotionally stretched, mentally scattered, and physically hollow, yet still calling it functional. You might know the feeling. The kind of tired sleep doesn't fix. The kind of overwhelm that creeps into your bones. Where even in your dreams you're answering emails, apologizing to people, replaying the day's mistakes. This isn't laziness. It's not a failure of motivation. It's a nervous system that's been on high alert for too long, trying to survive in a life that never pauses. We've learned to mistake urgency for importance, busyness for worth, exhaustion for effort. So when we finally slow down, it doesn't feel safe. It feels wrong, like something's missing, like we're falling behind. But you're not falling behind, you're falling apart. And you don't need to push through it. You need to tend to it. Because rest isn't just what you do when you're done with everything else. It's what allows you to come back to your life with clarity, with calm, with choice. You can't keep trading your well-being for productivity and calling it ambition. At some point, something has to give. Let it be the story that says rest is weakness. You're not weak for needing rest. You're human for needing it. There's a story, simple, but unforgettable. A young man wanted to prove himself as the best woodcutter in the village. Strong, ambitious, relentless. One day, he challenged an older lumberjack to a contest from sunrise to sunset. Whoever chopped more wood would win. The young man went all in, chopping without pause, barely stopping to breathe. Every hour he looked over and saw the old man sitting, drinking tea, resting, even napping. And he thought, this is mine to win. He's wasting time. But at sunset, when they weighed the wood, the old man had quietly, calmly won. How? The young man asked. I never stopped. And the old man smiled. Yes. But every time I sat down, I sharpened my axe. That story lives rent-free in many of us, not because it's clever, but because it's true. Rest doesn't make you soft, it makes you sharp. We've been taught to keep swinging, to power through fatigue, to stay in motion even when the blade is dull. But real progress isn't about relentless output. It's about rhythm. Knowing when to cut and when to stop and sharpen. When you rest, really rest, you don't lose your edge. You reclaim it. You return with more clarity, more focus, more presence. Rested you works smarter, not harder. Rested you sees more clearly, hears more deeply, moves more intentionally. So if it feels like your progress has slowed, if your energy is scattered, if your inner edge has gone blunt, don't just swing harder. Sharpen the axe. We often say we're resting, but many times we're just escaping. There's a quiet difference between the two, one that your nervous system feels, even if your mind doesn't notice. Rest is intentional. It restores. It brings you back to yourself. Escapism feels similar at first, but it numbs. It disconnects. It leaves you even more drained than before. You know the feeling. You collapse onto the sofa after a long day, open an app just for 5 minutes, and before you know it, you've lost an hour to scrolling. 4 episodes of a show play in the background. You're not watching. You're not present. You're suspended, not in peace but in passivity. This isn't rest, it's sedation. And it's happening because your brain is trying to protect you the only way it knows how, by hitting the emergency off switch. Because somewhere deep inside it knows you won't stop unless you crash. But here's the truth. Real rest doesn't sedate you. It awakens you. It doesn't shut you down. It brings you gently back online. It allows you to feel again, breathe again, think clearly again. So the next time you reach for the screen to cope, pause. Ask yourself, am I choosing rest or am I avoiding how tired I've become? There's no shame in needing to escape. But there is power in recognizing when it's time to return. Because you deserve more than sedation. You deserve restoration. When was the last time you actually felt awake? Not just out of bed, not just upright with coffee in hand, but truly, vividly awake, alive in your body, clear in your thoughts, grounded in your presence. That kind of awareness has become rare. So rare, we begin to forget it's even possible. Most of us wake up tired. We go through our routines on autopilot, responding to the day as if life is something happening to us, not through us. Our minds wander, our attention splits, and even in moments meant for rest, we're still half plugged in, still monitoring, still managing. So much of this exhaustion isn't from doing too much, it's from never fully arriving. And when you never fully arrive, your nervous system never fully settles. You stay alert, even in sleep. You stay tense, even in silence. And gradually, you lose touch with what it feels like to be here. But being awake isn't a luxury. It's your natural state, one that rest reopens. Because real rest doesn't just help you recover. It helps you return to clarity, to calm, to yourself. And from that place, everything shifts. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start choosing. You move through life, not just through motion, but with meaning. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt fully here? Not rushing, not scrolling, just present. That state still lives inside you. And with rest, you can remember your way back to it. Rest doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous to all the things that once kept you small. When you're rested, you're not just recharged, you're recalibrated. You begin to think clearly, set boundaries, Make decisions that aren't driven by fear or fatigue. You stop people-pleasing. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop tolerating what drains you just to keep the peace. Because tired you is a version the world has normalized, reactive, scattered, overcommitted. Tired you says yes when you mean no. Tired you forgets your own needs. Tired you survives. But rested you? Rested you remembers. Remembers what matters. Remembers who you are when you're not just pushing through. Rested you isn't just calmer. It's clearer, stronger, sharper. There's a quiet power that rises when you're no longer running on fumes, a presence that turns heads not because it's loud, but because it's unwavering. That's the version of you that burnout fears. The one who doesn't need to prove anything to be enough. The one who sees through the noise. The one who can say, "Not now," and mean it, without explanation. The one who lives aligned, not just busy. So yes, rest like your life depends on it. Because your clarity does. Your courage does. Your ability to show up, not just survive, depends on the kind of rest that doesn't sedate, but sharpens. Rest isn't retreat. It's preparation. Rest isn't something you earn. It's something you build. But most of us were taught the opposite, that rest comes after the work is done, after the inbox is empty, after everyone else has what they need. So we treat it like a luxury, a reward, a final checkbox at the end of a list that never ends. And then we wonder why we never quite get there. You don't wait until your body collapses to start drinking water. You don't wait for the car to break down before changing the oil. So why do we wait until we crash to care for our minds? True rest isn't reactive. It's not what you do when you're too tired to keep going. It's what you weave into the rhythm of your life so that you can keep going, with clarity and strength. That means scheduling rest the way you schedule work, protecting it the way you protect appointments, honoring it the way you honor your commitments to others, because it is a commitment to your well-being, to your future self, to your ability to show up as someone whole. You don't need a month off to rest well. Sometimes it's 15 minutes of silence, a walk with no headphones, a screen-free evening, a moment of breath between tasks. These small choices are not insignificant. They're structure. They're signal. They say to your nervous system, you matter too. Rest isn't what happens when life allows it. It's what happens when you decide it's non-negotiable. Rest doesn't have to look like a 2-week escape to the Maldives. Sometimes, rest is a quiet cup of tea you don't rush, a lunch eaten without a screen, a walk without podcasts or playlists, just the sound of your footsteps and the rhythm of your breath. Sometimes it's turning your phone off at 8 p.m. and realizing, nothing needs fixing tonight. We often delay rest because we imagine it needs to be perfect, uninterrupted, Instagram-worthy. But real rest isn't about the setting. It's about the intention. It's not about the size of the pause. It's about the quality of your presence in it. The truth is, the most restorative moments are often the smallest. 5 minutes staring out the window, sitting in silence before the day begins, letting the dishes sit in the sink while you breathe, laughing with someone who makes you feel safe, saying, "I'm not available for that right now," and not offering a single justification. These acts might look ordinary from the outside, but internally, they're powerful. They tell your body it's safe to stop. They remind your mind it doesn't have to be alert all the time. They invite your soul back into the room. You don't need more time. You need more permission. And that permission doesn't come from the world. It comes from you, deciding that rest is not a reward, but a rhythm. Not something you wait for, but something you choose, again and again, in small, intentional ways. Not later. Now, so if you've been carrying more than your share of weight, running on low, showing up with an empty tank, let this be your permission to stop, to breathe, to rest, not because you've earned it, but because you need it. And when you do, when you finally let the stillness in, you'll remember something you forgot in the noise. You are already enough, even in pause, even in quiet, especially there. If this brought you a moment of peace, feel free to subscribe, not out of pressure, but as a quiet promise to keep coming back to yourself.